That's it. I've had enough. I tried really hard to be calm about all this, but ever since you got that bloody guitar, it's like our relationship's falling apart.
The important elements of getting a good script and story, from the get-go, the second word you have there is the story. You need your good story there. I mean, you can have, some really well-written characters, but if they're just sitting on their asses, if they're just sitting around scratching the butts, you've not got anything there. They could be the most fleshed out characters in the world, but all they're doing is scratching that flesh. So it's useless. So you need that story for them to sit in.
Well, there's two kind of strands to a story. As far as I'm concerned, you've got the plot and you've got the character arcs. You can't have one without the other. A story that's entirely plot-based, it'll keep an audience's attention, but they won't care because they've got no emotional involvement in the story, because human beings like to see other human beings in order to get emotional involvement in it. So if you don't have good characters, they don't get the emotion, they pretty much just follow the things that go on. The good scripts are the ones that have really good characters that an audience can care about, and they have a plot that's kind of moving forward that keeps you interested. So it's keeping you emotionally involved with the characters and keeping you interested with the plot.
And that's what we wanted to get with the Collector's Room, is that we could do Twilight Zone episodes. We could do Night Gallery episodes, take them plot point for plot point, change the character names, change the, you can take the plot points and just change the overarching plot of that and follow the same structure that they did. But we wanted to do something that was a bit different. We wanted to be character driven, not event driven. So we've always tried to write characters that move the plot forwards themselves through their choices, rather than having external factors come in to move the plot along.
Be sure that you do. And when you're done, pack your bags, because I want you out of here.
That way, your audience is going to empathise more with the characters, because they're the ones that are driving the plot, not some random force that you've written in there just because you needed something.
I just wanted to be sure. Just go and get him, Dave.
You need your, it's like any good story, you need your beginning, your middle, and your end. And you need that in place before you do anything else. I mean, that's what I've always said about when I get down to writing, I make sure I have my 3 acts there set in place before I even do anything else. I need to make sure I know where it's going and where it starts and where it's ending, rather than writing it and then kind of making it up as I go along. Lay down everything that's going to happen and have plot points written down. Your characters there, write down character backstories. If you feel they're necessary to have character backstories, write them down. If it's important to the story, write them down. Beginning screenwriters, and I know because I did this, was telling a story through words rather than letting pictures do it. You have to see a script as a finished product rather than just words on a page. You can't just explain everything in dialogue. Better do something visually. Usually it will cut down on your pages for starters, which is probably a good thing, because that means you can cut the film down and make it a nice tighter product. I used to just explain everything in dialogue so that when you came around to actually filming it, there's nothing to film apart from 2 people sitting around talking about the plot.
So can you play anything, yeah?
Not really. I'm still learning E, A, and D.
Okay, the reason Last Serenade doesn't feel like the cliched possessed item story is because the possessed item in the story actually plays second fiddle to the relationship aspect of that story. That for me is the most interesting thing about The Last Serenade, is the relationship between Joey and Vanessa. I think it was Kaylee was on set and she pointed, and I think it might be, it was either Kaylee or Chris pointed out on set that the guitar could be anything. The guitar could be an Xbox, it could be a TV, it could be a dog. It's almost second fiddle to what the actual story is about. So that's what, although it is a very Twilight Zone-esque episode about a possessed item, the story doesn't revolve around that.
The only characters that were well written in my version were Kaylee's character and Chris's character, Vanessa and Joey. That was it. All the other characters were either very two-dimensional Like Mr. Starling was very two-dimensional when I originally wrote him. And Siobhan was literally written as a character to feed lines to the other characters. And Felicity, I didn't really know what I'd written when I'd written that. So Luke came in and actually made those characters that little bit more realistic.
Dan wrote the first draft of Last Serenade and then gave it to me to rewrite. And the first thing that I amended in there was the party sequence. In Dan's original version of the party sequence, it was much shorter, and I didn't feel there was enough character development in there, because that was essentially our Basil exposition scene.
You know when you first start going out with somebody and everything's all new and exciting? It's just hard to keep that going.
Well, that's standard for most relationships.
Yeah, but how long have you...
Siobhan became... Originally she was kind of a friend that hadn't spoken to Vanessa for a long time, and there was kind of this separation between them. But that didn't work so well, so I'm quite glad that we eventually rewrote it so that they were old friends, and that works so much better.
The only problem is that when we put that on screen, that scene is 10 minutes long. It's a third of the episode. And it falls right, almost bang in the middle of 10 straight minutes of people talking. It is two people talking in one location, and then one moves and goes to another person, and it's two people talking. It's like Clerks in colour. I really hammered home the Michael point. I was literally with a nail going, come on, make sure the audience understand this. I'm not sure they're following. Literally, like holding out, like writing cards, placards, holding up saying, the guitar is possessed by her dead housemate. It could have been a bit more subtle and shorter.
Does that mean I can go out tonight?
Maybe.
Maybe meaning yes?
We'll see.
I promised Mum I'd give you another chance.
The Star was something that we really collaborated a lot on, because originally The Star was a very different story.
The Star's a really interesting case because it went through so many changes, of where we had Kathleen as the sympathetic character. Then we did a draft where Max was the sympathetic character, and we put Kathleen back to her bratty side, but we sympathised with Max because he had to be dealing with her.
Kathleen was thoroughly unlikable. She was kind of this bratty character that you love to hate. But I felt that as she became more and more important within the episode, it became more and more necessary that the audience empathise with her and actually like that character. And so she got rewritten quite a bit, and that was a lot of Luke and I discussing what the character should do in certain situations and how that would work, and then Luke would go off and write it.
And it's again, although The Star is the cliched build, twist, ending, it's a relationship story between a father and a daughter who also happen to be manager and clients. My advice I'd give to people who want to become screenwriters, do what I did and find someone who can make films. I can't make films on my own. No one can. You need to find a filmmaking partner or a group of you as filmmakers. You know, if you're going to be the screenwriter of that group, brilliant, but you've got to be essentially the backbone of that team, because you've got to be the one that's got to facilitate all the ideas through.
My advice to beginning filmmakers is take a good hard look at the script. Take away the fact that you've spent 4 years on it. Ignore the fact that it is personal to you. Look at that script. Is that story going to interest an audience? Or is it simply something that you like, that you're proud of? Because if it's not going to entertain an audience, bin it. Chuck it to one side, look at it later. It's about entertaining that audience.
Write the script that you think is good. Make it for as cheaply as possible. Edit it together, and then you can see where you went wrong. It's like any filmmaker. Make something and learn from the mistakes that you've made, because you're bound to. I mean, we're 3 episodes into the series and we've made mistakes on all 3 episodes. But I can guarantee you we won't make those mistakes again on episode 4. We'll probably make new mistakes on that one, which we won't do in episode 5. By the time episode 6 rolls around, we should be fine. In theory.